I did quite a bit of tree climbing growing up on the farm. The tall cottonwoods, those were the best ones. They had the branches in the right spot where you could easily climb them. My guardian angel must have been working overtime because I never fell out. My younger brother actually did fall out of a tree at one point. But I don't climb trees anymore. I'm sure you could imagine that. You're like, what's that over there? Is that Father climbing the tree? Though maybe you saw even stranger things this past Halloween. Zacchaeus, we have here in the gospel, this grown man, climbs up the sycamore tree. Probably got a number of looks from the crowd. The gospel says that he was the head tax collector and a wealthy man, so he probably had a reputation to keep. But the crowd was so dense and his desire was so great to see this Jesus that everybody had been talking about that he forgot his pride and he climbed up the tree to try to catch a glimpse. As Zacchaeus had to fight the crowd, so too our lives can become so crowded with all the many thoughts and ideas, the things that the world will put in front of us, kind of gets in our way of our ability to see the Lord. It can be easy to lose sight of him in our culture. We can think maybe at times that, is Jesus really there? Because we don't see him clearly. But when you come here to Mass each week, it's kind of like climbing up the tree, up out of the crowds of the world in order to see Jesus more clearly. Because here we find him in the Eucharist, the tabernacle, and on the altar when we receive Holy Communion. Just like he invited Zacchaeus to come to his house, or he asked Zacchaeus to have him come to the house so that he could share in the meal, so too we share in the meal at the Lord's house. But we'll notice that even though Zacchaeus comes up the tree in order to see Jesus, Jesus doesn't have him just stay there. He calls him back down to solid earth because he wants to stay at Zacchaeus' house. Jesus wants to be part of our everyday life. So while we truly do meet Jesus here when we come to Mass, when we climb the tree, Jesus also wants to make sure that he's present in your lives. To hear him say, "Come down quickly, for I must stay at your house today." Jesus wants to stay with each of us in all the things that happen in our daily lives, whatever it is that we go through. And he does so, especially through his guidance in the Holy Spirit. In the crowd of conflicting ideas that our world puts forth, there are some people that make the claim that you can't be a good Christian and care about society, to be a good citizen of our country. That if we were to come here each week and climb up the tree, that some people would ridicule us and say, "What are you doing, people of faith? That stuff's not real." And they might see it as being not as able for us to live each day a good part of society. But we can't let them fool us in that way into making us lose sight of Jesus in the midst of the crowd. If we just look at some of those values upon which our country was founded, like those inalienable rights we find written in the Declaration of Independence, life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, are not these things that are important to our faith? In fact, they're there because of the faith of our forefathers. We hold up happiness as something that everyone ought to be able to live out of, especially a happiness that comes from knowing God and following him. We uphold liberty as a very high standard, as kind of freedom, not just to do whatever you want to do, but a freedom to be able to do what is right and good. And finally, we can think about, even the soldiers of our country who fight for the free lives of all who live here. so too we continue to battle for the lives of every single person from the very moment of their existence. And to think that that's the example of Jesus as well, who offered his life upon the cross so that we can have life. So being Christian and living it out, not just up the tree here at church, but when we go forth into the world, is in no way un-American. But it really is a challenge to all citizens to uphold those foundations of what we hold dear. So we build up our country to the degree that we authentically live out our faith, letting Jesus transform us through the guidance of the church, through the sacraments, the power of the Holy Spirit. And we see this is exactly what happens to Zacchaeus. When he comes down the tree and Jesus eats at his house, it changes the way that he's going to live in society. He says, I'm going to give to the poor now. I'm going to give back what I've stolen through my time as the tax collector. So Jesus brings not only salvation to Zacchaeus, but then Zacchaeus begins to care not just for himself, but for the rest of society. So we receive the strength today from receiving Jesus, seeing him in a clear way here at Mass, so that we're able to return back out into the crowds of the world, those ideas and opinions. But above all that noise, to listen to the voice of truth and love. My sons, my daughters, come down quickly, for today I must stay at your house.